Our students in the Succeeding at the Piano method know their major and minor 5-finger patterns so well. They also know their triads, they know the 5-7 chord as a 2-note chord, and they have learned crossovers, which enable them to learn the octave scales. So on page 50 of the All-in-One 2B is where the students start to learn their scales. I start with C major, not that that's the easiest scale to learn. As Mozart said, C major is one of the more difficult ones because we don't have the black keys in which to think about where our fingering should be. But for the sake of being usual, we're going to start with a C major scale. So we all know that the fingers 1, 2, 3 begin the scale, and then the student crosses under with a thumb, and have the student release and bring up their wrist just a little bit so that when they bring down their thumb, the rest of the fingers can prepare the rest of the scale. 2, 3, 1, 2, off. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, rest. Remember that practicing begins when a student plays something correctly. So have the student work on the fingering and the note names, and then play it 3 times absolutely correctly. So now the next number 2 exercise is going ascending and descending. Without twisting your wrist on the way down, cross finger 3 over 1. So again, slide your thumb out as quickly as possible to prepare the C that they will play soon. Instead of this twisting, right, the elbow goes out and they twist their wrist. Okay. The next part of this page is the 3 important notes in the C major scale: the tonic, the dominant, the leading tone. And the leading tone always goes back to tonic. So we can think of it as home is always the 1 chord, the vacation is the dominant, and the leading tone always leads back home. On the next page, students are learning the C major scale in the left hand. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And think about how the student is going to cross over with their 3rd finger. Let's make sure that the thumb isn't stuck underneath the palm for a long period of time. So as soon as the 3rd finger is played, the thumb slides out and prepares the C. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, rest. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, rest. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, rest. And then the ascending scale they know, and then the descending scale, we want to make sure that the students are always playing on the outside tip of their thumbnail. Always on the outside tip of their thumbnail. All right, raise the wrist a little bit. The thumb has to prepare the G. And as soon as it plays, the rest of the fingers slide into place. And then a full C major, 1 chord, 5, 7, which we know is called a 5, 6, 5. And this is what the students are learning now. If the student wants to know why it's called a 5, 6, 5 chord, they can look at page 66. When the Saints Go Marching In, this is such a fabulous folk song for playing C major scales. So in this piece, I talk about unit practicing. And in this particular piece, I think 2 measures plus 1 downbeat would be the section that the student can practice. Perfect unit. Have the students do that 3 times correctly, and then they can go ahead and plan another unit of practicing. So maybe measure 8 to measure 10. 1, 2, 3. Have them do that 3 times in a row correctly. So if you have your students put little moons or stars or squares or triangles over maybe 5 places during the week where they'll use unit practicing, they're going to come back to you and be able to start at any place in the piece that they have marked and they will learn their piece with much more efficiency. So of course, playing the C major scale throughout. There's a big scale at the end. And then I also say practice measures 19 to 20 5 times correctly every day. Ooh, there's a big move at the end. So let's make sure the students use play, prepare, practice strategy, and then the kickoff at the end. Spirited piece. So there was one rhythm that I actually changed around. Could you tell where it was? It was measured 11. And it reminded me of one of my students who was playing through a piece, and he made a little mistake, but he just kept going. And at the end of the whole ensemble together, he said, well, I knew I had made a mistake, but then I thought to myself, I just got to keep going, and I'll deal with that mistake later. And that's how I felt too when I was playing that. So I'm going to start at measure 10, and we're going to make sure that my rhythm at measure 11 is really perfect. That's it. That's it. Very good. All right, and then the next page, page 54, is a technique, not a technique page, but a theory page. Forgetful Freddy has forgotten the C major scale. Oh my goodness, so there are some wrong things in that scale. Maybe notes are wrong, fingering are wrong, and so we want to make sure our students fix it, and then they can play the C scale. They have to write the tonic, dominant, leading tone notes and tonic, and then ear training. The student can play like libro, and then they have to figure out what these next chords are. And of course, then they can transpose it as well. So many wonderful things we can do with our students to keep piano playing motivating, interesting, and really fun.